This is Harish Srinivasan, co-founder of Infinite Engineers. So we have been in the education space for the last 10 years. So we love solving problems in schools, and we have picked up experiential learning when we started. So we used to set up these STEM labs, deliver science kits, and we have been working with over 200 plus schools across India. And last few years, we always had a thought of, can we create something like a collective learning hub among school principals, teachers? Because that's always needed. Whenever we talk to a principal, they used to share their challenges, their problems, because it's a very complex system, right? I mean, we have been, there are over 26 crore children who are attending school in our country, which is huge. And we have so many schools, and a lot of things are happening. So as a principal, as a school teacher, so you're doing your best in giving a great learning experience for your children. But in doing so, there are a lot of challenges that you're crossing, a lot of hurdles that you're crossing. So this IE School Principal Hub is a space for you to share ideas in bringing your vision to reality. So we are doing the role of bringing in experts, bringing in new tools, and bringing in more awareness to you and more ways in which you can approach your existing problem challenges. So this is in a way where we could collectively learn from each other, because that collective learning hub among schools is what will take us further. And we would love to bring in more experts from across the globe, across India in the upcoming session. So this is just the first of the series of School Growth Summit. I know the next academic year, you have already been thinking about it, what you could bring in as new tools, solutions. But this is sort of more of a gateway to understand what are the existing solutions that are available, and we could discuss on potential challenges and what NEP says. There's a lot of things going on. Today's conversation is focused on the future of assessments. So how using technology you could bring out better outcomes. Thank you, Swami, for joining. I'm just pinning you onto the screen, and also
thanks a lot, Harish. Namaste, all principals and teachers.
Welcome, Ram. I'll just probably kickstart with the introduction of Ram. So both Ram and Swami have very similar things. So they have a very strong experience in the IT background, in the tech industry, and they came into education with a lot of passion and purpose. And that's what I really love about both of them. But first, I'll get into Ram, do a quick introduction. So Ram is a co-founder of Catapult Learning Solutions to primarily shape how children voices are heard in classroom. So he's working on wonderful tech solutions that make classroom learning experience much better. And before that, he have had over 7 years experience in guiding startups and over 22 years in IT industry. So that's the background that the Ram is coming from, and he's and through the Catapult Learning solution and his solution called Q Cards, which we're going to explore much depth in this webinar, we're going to unlock more into Ram's and his team's brain of making classroom assessments much more interactive and fun. So wonderful, Ram, to have you in this session. Thanks for accepting it, and it has always been wonderful talking and interacting with you. I'm also learning a lot through your experience. So welcome once again to the School Growth Summit series.
Thank you very much, Harish, and always good to interact with Swami. And I am extremely excited to be part of this session. I know that you have, Harish, you and your team have put in a lot of effort to get the principals and different stakeholders from schools, especially on a Sunday morning, right?
Yeah.
So, and I think that is really appreciative of you and your team. And thank you all for joining in. Please do feel, as Harish said, please do feel free to ask us any question regarding assessments or the agenda that we have put together. And hopefully we will have a very good interactive, and even for us, I think we would be learning from you so that we can improve on whatever issues and challenges that you face into the future. Thank you all.
Wonderful. Thank you, Ram. So next I'll go into Swami. So Swami is the co-founder and CEO of SmartTail Private Limited. And once I listened to the solution, I got like amazed with what they are building at. His co-founder actually gave me a teaser of it, but I'll see more of in today's demo. I'm also like you, uh, waiting to see what uh, Swami's team is sort of built for the schools. And through artificial intelligence, they are sort of reimagining how assessments could implement within classrooms. So he's an alumnus of BITS Pilani with over 20 years experience in IT industry. Again, a very similarity to what Ram. So from a strong IT background, they have come into education, into make certain things seamlessly working in classrooms in schools. And that's what they have been doing. I'm super happy to welcome Swami to have his insights that he had over the last few years in making assessments more impactful. So wonderful to have you, Swami, to the School Growth Summit.
Thank you, Harish. Thank you. Really humbled being here and among all the principals today and all the school stakeholders. Thank you, Aram, again. Amazing interacting with you from our end as well, from my end as well. And whatever we have built in the last 5 years at SmartTail is all through inputs of the teachers and the principals and the school chairmen and owners uh, whose inputs were very pivotal in building us what we've actually built today. So very happy to share the experiences, very happy to share on what we've actually built. And many thanks to you and your team for putting this up together. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you, Swami. What is something that you feel is the most challenging part when it comes to assessments?
Happy morning, the respected dignitaries.
Happy morning, sir.
Myself, Vijay B. I'm the principal of Shemford Futuristic School, Baniambadi. It's a rural place near Tirupattur.
Okay.
I want to convey that it's a wonderful initiative where school leaders are joined together to discuss about the future of assessments. But when come to assessments, marking scheme and the learning gaps and the learning outcomes are not being bridged between the terms of assessment. So when it comes to assessment, parents are always with the number. How is the number about? So, but as a leader, an educator, I really feel that the skills are not being encouraged in terms of assessment. So, if competency skills and 21st century skills are being assessed in today's world and today's classroom, teaching learning process will be so easier, I feel.
Wonderful. Thanks a lot, sir, for sharing your perspective on assessments, because this is what we need. I mean, your perspective. Thanks for sharing. And we also have in chat box as well. So Belavan from Curious had asked, he's curious to know what principles go behind in designing an assessment. Like, how do I tell a difference between a well-designed assessment to a poorly designed one? Thanks a lot for sharing that question. And Rajeshwari ma'am has asked, some are good in oral answering, but not good in writing the same. How do we assess them? Okay, there are different ways in which assessment goes. Certain students probably not very good in writing it, but they're good in oral. Thanks for bringing that perspective. Others, please go ahead. I mean, like, you can also unmute and talk. We just need few more responses to understand more about your thought process on assessment. So what are the top challenges? I'm also quickly, I'm not sure if poll is visible to all, but in poll, learning gap is where most people have voted on. Insight to Swami and Ram. So understanding learning gap is where most people have voted on. Yeah, we have one more response in chat. Non-uniform ways of assessment across areas and language issue. Okay, thanks for sharing it. By non-uniform, I sort of understand maybe it's not standardized. It's like different across different grades. And probably you're trying hard to connect the dots and then put it all together. Thanks a lot for sharing. And a few more responses. And I'm even like, okay to spend the next 5 minutes on this because it's very critical. I hope Ram, also Swami, and also will understand on getting these responses from school leaders.
Good morning to all the dignitaries. I'm Natalia from Chennai. I work as a teacher in a CBSE school. I would like to add a point based on the question, what are the challenges faced? Children are after 10th or 12th to enter into college, they have to take up an entrance exam. Whereas the questions there are mostly critical based questions, critical thinking questions. but we don't train them as such in school for those type of questions. So I feel that is a challenge, whereas they only write MCQs and long answers, such type of questions. Thank you.
Got it, man. Thanks a lot for sharing that. A very huge problem, and probably we're also like faced a lot of it, and probably Swami and Ram would have related to that in their schools as well, in which they are working. But thanks a lot. As a teacher, I know you're thinking about their future, and that's the most beautiful part. You're not thinking about the immediate exams that they're facing. You're also thinking about the exam that they're going to face in their life, which will help them in their career and all this stuff. But thanks for bringing that point. And one more response. Who can unmute and talk, please? So we have Pavni ma'am, we have Vandana ma'am. I'm just mentioning your names so that, like, if you have any questions, so feel free to unmute and ask. So we have a response from Pavni ma'am. So how to make parents understand regarding the marks obtained by the child and their ability. I feel assessment should be more practical. So marks versus skills is what I think she's trying to bring that point. And Rajeshwari ma'am has asked how to go about for children who are admitted through inclusion at school level. For both, they have different modes. Through inclusion, probably you can add more insight on that, Rajeshwari ma'am. I can understand a bit, but probably through inclusion, do you mean of different learner types, or like what do you specifically mean? So please add that as well, so it'll help us. So Swami, Ram, I think the stage is pretty set with what insights and pulse the audience have brought it. I'll start with Ram with this question. Like, how do you think assessment had evolved over the period of time? Like when you were studying and now you're serving schools, what has happened in this point in time, and what do you think about the future of assessments?
Yeah, I think a lot has changed in the last 40, 50 years in terms of how assessments are created, how are they assessed, how the teachers school looks at it. But the fundamental core of all of this is to understand the child, understand the student, right? And that happened even before, and that happens even now. Of course, there are so many different boards out there which come out with various guidelines and regulations in terms of whether it is they follow the FASA model, or they follow the monthly model, or various things. Even foreign boards have come into play, right? So which was not there about maybe 2-3 decades ago, right? So I think fundamentally I see that though the assessments, the questions and all those things have become better and better, and getting into, as some of the principals and others said, right? How do we get into critical thinking? How do we assess them, right? I don't think when I grew up, I even thought about it, nor did the school or others thought about critical thinking and other soft skills, which is very much required here, because the technology, that is one part of it, but the world itself has kind of become smaller. And 40, 50 years ago, you didn't travel even beyond your state, right? So from that perspective, I think there are new dimensions that have come, which has to be incorporated into the assessments, right? So I think it's, though it might be looking as if it is more complex right now, but in essence, we are only trying to get the students to learn a few things, not only on the technical side of things, but also on the soft skill side of things. And that is where critical thinking, communication, all those other aspects come into play.
Got it. Thanks, Ram, for your perspective. And in bridging both, I mean, both the assessments, the skills that the child needed, is the assessments helping the child to build that skills in the future and not just immediate results. But thanks for bringing that perspective. And over to you, Swami. Same question. You have been in this industry and you have picked this core problem of assessments. There are so many things that you have picked while you have entered into school at tech segment, but you have picked assessments. And what made you to do so, and how it has evolved over the time? Yeah.
See, I mean, we took it from a very, very practical business standpoint, because we are a company at the end of the day, right? So keeping the academician aside, we took it from a very, very business standpoint and saying, okay, what is whenever we go into an optimization mode, or whenever we go into a value prop mode or a value proposition that we want to add to our customers, the first couple of things that we actually look at is how can we add value to our customer. In this case, our customers are schools, our customers are teachers, principals, and so on and so forth. Now, if you really look at the practical implementation in the schools today, you have what 205 working days in a year approximately for a particular school. In that 205 working days, you have around 40% of the time that is actually spent by the teachers on grading assessments, correcting assessments as such. Now, what has happened previously was as you were mentioning, there are 26 crore children who are actually studying in schools across India, and that's double the population of many of the European countries. So to manage this level of volume and to bring in enough standardization, there were a lot of methodologies that were actually brought in to say, okay, now let's go and standardize everything, and for everyone it's the same thing. Now, as some of the principals were actually mentioning, each child is not the same. There is a lot of differences between the learning levels of a kid, whether they are a kinestical learner or a auditory and visual learner. All of these varies, and then the way in which you even conduct an exam to a kid is might also. Kids with dyslexia will not be able to write better, but if you ask them to speak, or if they ask them to represent it via an art form, they will do it exceedingly well than all the other kids possible. So now, unfortunately, the volume speaks in terms of what we can actually bring onto the table. So here, the first thing is, I still need to go and correct the answer papers or correct the unit test and the formative exams, the summative exam that is actually there on the table. But when I correct these things, when I grade these answer papers, am I only going to get a set of marks, set of numbers, which is in a spreadsheet? Or should I get something more than just a set of numbers? Because there is more in the answer paper than just what is actually derived out of the numbers. Now, for that, does the school have time? For that, does the school have the energy and the effort that can be put in? The reason is, again, even if we want to do it, there is a cost factor to it, there is an effort factor to it, and there is a time factor to it. So how can the schools manage this? And what is that we have looked into is, how can we actually go and help the schools in managing this whole effort and getting more out of when you do a correction of a particular answer paper than just the mere numbers that is actually coming through. So that's how we have actually solved it. And it's a very interesting gamut because though we say that a lot of things have actually evolved, MCQ was invented 25 years back. When I was writing my CAT, I still wrote the OMR sheets, and then I was submitting, and then all of that was actually happening. And that's the same thing that's happening today. So when we are saying that assessments have evolved, not so much. It's still we are still in the process of elimination rather than in finding out what is the real learning level of a kid, because it's all time bound. Interestingly, I also guest lecture at IIT Madras. One of the biggest challenges that we face today is when kids come in to join into IIT Madras, that has been their final objective. So joining IIT Madras has been their final objective, but that's where their life actually starts. That's where you begin your career, right?
True.
So in that sense as well, it's little challenging for the kids, because when they come in, they are very good in answering the MCQ questions and eliminating the options. But when we give them a problem to solve, they're not able to solve it as well as we would have actually liked them to solve. So now that's where the difference in terms of even from a school to a university, I think that was one of the questions that was asked by one of the principals. And from university, you go into any work. We are not going to be worried about whether you scored 90 or 94 or 93. We are going to only check whether you can learn something new and can you solve a problem very fast. So corporate suddenly changes everything, and then you're expected to be a man or woman in your own sense of solving problems. So that's where I think Harish is the main understanding what it comes to what is practically needed in the world for the kids.
Wonderful. Thanks a lot, Swami. So with whatever Swami and Ram said, I'm just like thinking of three different areas, probably very connected. One is the questions that we're going to ask our children, and that is because of these competency-based education, all those things. So what questions we are going to ask and how it is going to be connected to the skills and abilities of the children. The second area is how we are going to implement assessments. There involves a lot of logistics because in a year you're doing multiple formative assessments, you're doing couple or three summative assessments for all the subjects, you're correcting and all those stuff. Because I still remember in my school days, my teacher used like the two sets of things. One is just they distribute the answer papers, and that was a very nervous moment just to understand how many marks we scored. And then immediately we get into the next step. That's it. We didn't even reflect on what went wrong and like what could be something that I need to build so that I can improve my abilities or skills and all those stuff. So it was just because there is no time. And the third critical part is what is the data that we're going to give to teachers, give to children to act on it. I think technology plays a very critical element there. So one is the questioning. Second is how we're going to implement it seamlessly within classrooms, as formative as summative. And third is the data that's going to support us in terms of adding more interventions, or even data that gives us a feedback back to the teacher, back to the management to rethink on certain strategies. And that's where the real success of assessment starts. It's not because assessment is not just about the child. It's more about the process, the systems, it's about the teaching practices. And I think with whatever tools you have built, I think it becomes like a gateway to get into that. So without further delay, so the next section, because probably school leaders, you have understood their perspectives on assessment and how they have made build their tool on that aspect, but nothing like seeing actually what they've built, right? I mean, you have only seen them, but what the tool offers, we'll be seeing a quick demo. Before that, I would love to have teachers, school leaders, if it's possible, just turn on your video, because it'll be nice to see your expressions, your reactions as well, which will motivate us. So if it's okay for you, just switch on your videos, and in between, if you have any questions, feel free to like raise your hand and give a reaction. I'll open up. So thank you, Manoj sir. Thank you, Kaushik sir. I know like you're on a Sunday morning, but it's okay. That gives a sort of a more connected feel if you switch on your video. So thanks for that. So probably we'll get into the demo part, because I'm going to request them to have a quick demo. Probably their demo runs for more, but with the time constraint that we have, I'll first invite Ram to give a demo on the tool that Ram's team had built, and then we'll come to Swami. So once Ram demo is done, we'll have a quick Q&A specifically for that tool. Then we'll jump into Swami's. Hope that's fine, Ram, Swami. Good? Yes, yeah. Perfect. So let's now dive into Ram's solution.
Yeah, thank you, Harish. So before I get into a demo, I would like to quickly give you a background into how we created cue cards, right? And as you will see in the next 5 minutes, I'm not going to take more than 5-6 minutes for the demo. It is a very simple solution, right? And currently it is being used by more than 4,000 schools across 10-11 states. And the way we came out with the solution was based on a problem. The problem was twofold. One, the teachers in many of the schools and even some of the government schools came back to us and said, look, we don't have time to conduct or an assessment in the class, right? For us to actually create the question paper and even to get a pulse of the class, right? When I'm teaching a particular concept, let's say a division or a fraction, right? After 2-3 periods of teaching fractions, when I walk out of the class, I'm not able to, even if I ask a oral question to them, right? Hardly about 10-15% of the students actually respond. Some of the students may not have paid attention. Some of the students might have thought, okay, somebody else is answering, why should I answer? Or some of the other students might have thought, look, if I answer something incorrectly, right, the others will laugh or whatever it is, right? And this happens, I'm not saying in all the schools, This happens in predominantly many of the schools. And I have been, as a student, to be honest with you, I've also been fearful saying that, what if I say the wrong answer, right?
Mm.
This was about 40 years ago. I know, world has changed. Students are also much more vocal today and, all those things. But still, I am hearing from a lot of teachers and principals saying that, look, only 10% of the class actually give us the feedback in terms of what they have learned and what they haven't learned, even before completing or a particular concept. And this goes deeper into competency-based learning, because if you don't understand the concept, then how will you get into the higher order thinking skills, right? So what we did was we came out with a very, very simple question, a solution called cue cards. I hope you're all able to see it. It's a plastic card which can be bendable, and right in the center of the card, there is a QR code, a black and white square, right? It's similar to a QR code, and each student in the class gets this QR code with their number on it. So in this case, the number is 7. So it is attached to a roll number and the student for that particular class, right? So if there are 30, 40 students or 50 students in a class, each student gets a number associated with their name and roll number, so that they get this card before they are being assessed. So what is this cue card, right? This is a hexagonal card. And as you can see, it has in each of the vertices, it has A, B, C, D, E, F. You can actually, with the help of the teacher's app, which the teacher will have in her mobile phone, you can scan each of these 40, 50 cards in less than a minute for each question. Okay. So you can actually do multiple choice questions, up to 5 or 6 choices in a question. You can do true or false, or you can even do Likert scale based questions, which is basically questions like strongly agree to strongly disagree with weights. Okay. Let's take MCQs and true or false, right? Let's assume that you are the teacher. You go inside and you want to understand whether the students have understood or not. Conceptual understanding, right? You are distributing these cards for 5 or 6, 30 or 40 students. Now, each of these students have these cards. Now, I'm going to show you through the mobile app. I think the mobile app is visible on your screen.
Yes, Ram. Yeah.
Okay. Now, there is a cue cards app that I'm going to bring up. And this is only for the teacher. And this works without internet too. So you don't need to have internet when you are entering the classroom. And the teacher basically enters the PIN. So this is Vanita teacher in Sharda Shri Public School. She has 2 classes. You can have as many classes per teacher, right? If a typical teacher teaches about 5 or 6 classes in a year, right? This is a mathematics teacher teaching 6A and 6B. The 2 things that she can simply do is, she can, once I go inside the class, this is 6A mathematics. How does she distribute the cards? She clicks on class strength, which is 34. And each card number is associated with the student name. And that is how she knows that she can distribute the card number 1 to Akshay, card number 2 to Amrita, and so on and so forth. All these things are pre-populated inside the app, right? Now, she can do 2 things. One is assessment, and second one is attendance. She can take a very quick attendance without even asking the students, when we say present sir, absent sir, whatever it is, right? Present sir especially, right? So she doesn't have to call out names. She can just go to attendance, and today's attendance can be taken, where she clicks on take attendance, and then the camera opens up, right? Now I have in front of me, I have a board where I have stuck about 5, 6 cards just for this demo. You can imagine this in a typical classroom where the teacher is in front of the class and there are students who are holding this card in front of them, right? All these 30, 40 students, right? And this camera can actually scan up to 20 feet, right? So the teacher does not have to move around in her class. And then once I scan, immediately all the 5, 6 cards that the students are holding are getting scanned. and then the attendance is taken and it is submitted and it is recorded for that particular day. As you can see on the bottom of my app, it says 18% submitted at 11:34 a.m. Right? And then you can actually go and look at who are the students who are present and who are the students who are absent. What I also have heard from many schools is the state board, especially state board or even CBSE for that matter, they do require on a monthly basis in terms of attendance data. So this becomes very easy for the teacher without using any pen and paper or recording in a journal or a book or whatever it is to take attendance. Now let's move on to assessments. Here we have an active state and a completed state. This is mathematics, right? You can, as a teacher, load any subject for any class, including languages. So if you want to have language-based questions like Hindi, Kannada, Tamil, Telugu, whatever it is, you can load them, right? In this case, I have currently English questions. This is mathematics. Let's say we pick fractions since I talked about fractions, right? There are 6 questions here. Again, remember, this particular cue cards is mainly to get a pulse of whether the students have understood or not without asking them oral questions or giving them a written test. So there is no paper involved here, right? Now, let's say we want to do the assessment. Let's take a first question. The first question says 5 parts are shaded out of 8 parts of a circle. How to write this in fraction? There are 3 options. 8 by 5 is A. B choice is 5 by 8, which is the right answer. And this is only visible to the teacher, the right answer. And then the C option is half. Now the students have to show the card. And they basically, if somebody chooses B, they bring B to the bottom of the card. And on the back of the card, they have a thumb or a circle with which they can use it and show to the teacher. That's all they need to do if they've chosen B. If they've chosen C, they bring C to the bottom. And again, I'm going to use the same cards. I am going to click on assess and immediately assesses. The reason why these two 4 and 7 are gray or orange is because when I click on them, it shows invalid 2 and 4 and 7 are not showing the right options. So they have gone beyond D, E, F because there are only 3 options A, B, C, right? If they choose D or E or F, it will show which students actually have chosen the wrong options even before the teacher submits it so that she can go and correct it, right? So I won't get into the details of it. We can always do a detailed demo later on. Now you go and submit it and the results are uploaded. Even if there is no internet in the class, this can still be used to assess and to take attendance. Okay. And then once the internet is available, it will automatically sync to the server. Now let's go back and look at the results. So B is the right answer here. Okay. If you can see my mobile phone, B is the right answer. And 17% of the students have chosen the right answer. In this case, there is only 1 student. And you can actually click on B and see which student. Amrita is the student who has chosen B, right? A, Akshay has chosen the wrong choice, which is A. So what the teacher gets even before she leaves the class is get a quick pulse so that the next thing that she can do is to remedy if more than 40, 50, 60% of the class haven't understood the concept, then immediately they can remedy it. So there's a lot of time that is wasted later on by the student in trying to understand the concept, whereas the teacher has moved to the next chapter or concept or whatever it is. So as a school, as a teacher, you are number 1, saving a lot of time. Number 2, you are able to understand the child. And this can actually help in understanding each and every child or student in terms of what they have understood, what they have not understood in each of the concepts so that it can get into personalized learning, right? Let me stop there. If you have any questions at this point of time, feel free to ask.
First of all, thank you, Ram, for making it very simple for everyone to understand. I think you also have few claps reaction from the teacher principals here through the reaction. So I think they're able to understand the problem that you're trying to solve, because it's a very age old thing, right? Because in a 40 student classroom, I cannot get the response of every child in a 40-minute period. That's the reality. And even in my school days, I used to like feel nervous to raise my hands, tell my answers. And obviously teacher will not understand whether I would, when I became an educator after my, like when we started Infant Engineers, I always wanted to hear voices of all the children, but I was not able to. Because when I asked, there are only few students who are ready to raise their hands. With less time, I can only like hear them say, and I assume that other students would have understood it. But the reality may be not that. So I'm just uh, able to, I mean, with whatever school leaders are here, I'm just directly going to like hear it from them, because now Ram had presented and he had taken a very important problem of time of doing those formative assessment check-ins in your 40 minutes classroom. This is more like you do it on the go, like 5-10 minutes at the end of the classroom or in between the classroom. You can do this and then understand and then move forward. So let me hear your questions, your thoughts initially before we move to Swami's demo, because I just want to like have your initial reactions or initial questions, and probably we could also answer it later, which Ram can save it and then we could together answer it later. But I just wanted few principals, few teachers response to this particular solution of how they had bring in those technology element to solve a very big problem. So over to your school leader. So please, you can type it in the chat box. You can always unmute. You can always switch on your videos and ask those questions. So please go ahead. Please unmute yourself and have your thoughts.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. Hi, this is Kaushik. So thank you for the demo. I found it very actually surprising, and I was shocked to see like a teacher could do the assessment of the children without other children using gadgets. So that was the main surprising element that I found, because usually there are lots of elements that can assessments that can be done wherein the children also have to use some sort of technology. They have to either use a cell phone or a laptop or do some form of Google Forms or submit some surveys. So without that, it was very useful. But I just wanted to know a quick what is the learning age like? How long does a child take for them to get into this groove of answering using your cue card? What is the appropriate age from which that the children are quite comfortable in answering the assessments for this? Say, ideally, I feel like a fourth standard or third standard child should be able to do it well with frequent visits. But what was it? How did you come up with this, and like, what was your learning curve for this?
Yeah, so I think, thank you, Kaushik sir. This was thank you for the question. So you're right that since we have 6 options in this, it might be difficult for an younger child, say a first standard, second standard children. So that is why we also have an option of a square card which says ABCD. So this one of these is also, so while you can give a 6 hexagon card to a child above 5th or 6th standard, you can also choose, if you have only 4 choices in a question, right? You can also choose this one. So in our experience in the last 1 year, since we have incorporated this in schools, we have this implemented in government schools and in remote places. Plus, we also have it in some of the low-income private schools and other private schools, right? Why I'm specifically saying the government schools and low-income private schools is because, irrespective of this, it takes probably about a couple of classes for them to get used to it. I'm not going to deny the fact that it is going to be straightforward, saying that, okay, as soon as the teacher hands it over, because even for the teacher to use the app, see, I think most of us are used to apps, but then using a new app, we have tried to make it as simple as possible. But at the same time, it will take about a couple of classes for them to get used to it, both for the students as well as for the teacher. That is why we have put in additional checks there to say, if I choose the wrong option, which is not part of the choices at all, like I showed you, only ABC was there, but then some students showed D or E or F. The app will actually show the teacher saying that, look, some of the students have shown the wrong option. Can you go and actually correct it? And then so that they learn from it. I hope it answers your question.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kaushik sir, for that question, because it also because I know other school leaders would also be thinking on the similar thought process. But thanks for asking the specific question. I'll have one more response from the school leader teacher. Please go ahead and share your thoughts about this tool and any other question before we move into the next part of our demo.
Hey, Harish, am I allowed to ask a question, or is it only for
please? No, allowed for everyone. Yeah.
Hi, Ram. So, very curious, awesome demo. I think I'm seeing this for a long time. So, one question I had was, how does the logistics work for a school? If you have, say, for instance, I have, say, 25 classes, including all the sections and all those things, and then I want to run it from 3rd standard to 10th standard or 12th standard. I have 25 classes. Now, how does the logistics work? Does the school have to buy for 25 classes into so many number of students? How does how can from an economical standpoint, buying so many number of cards might still be expensive? So how does the logistics actually work for the school to implement this? If you can throw some light on that, that will be great.
No, definitely. I think this is one of the questions when we, when a school likes it, definitely they ask these questions, right? So it is very, I'll answer it in two parts. One from a school teacher perspective, and one from, the question library and all those things, what is preloaded, right? From a teacher school perspective, a teacher can carry a set of 40 cards. So in fact, what we do is, in a bag this size, we have about 40 or 50 cards that the teacher can carry from class to class. So she can, in other words, she can use the same set of 40 or 50 cards for all the classes that she teaches, right? Now, this is again from plastic. It's a plastic card. We have experimented with various materials, but this is durable. It can be bent and all those things. It doesn't break, right? It'll be very hard unless you use a hammer or whatever it is. It is going to be very difficult to swim. Plus, water, all those things can actually, even if you put water and all those things, you can easily wash it off. So this is a one-time purchase. That is what I'm trying to say here, right? It's a one-time purchase. Once you purchase these cards, you can use it for multiple years. The only thing is, if you lose the card, then you have to replace the card, right? And that becomes a very small problem. Let me come from what else needs to be there. From a questions perspective, we preload the questions based on the board, right? We can do the core subjects, maths, physics, chemistry, biology, all those things, social studies, English. Plus, you can also have languages. Plus, if you want other skills, soft skills, life skills, if you want art-based questions, any question can be loaded, right? And it can be programmed. Plus, the schools also have, if they want to add their own questions, like an instant poll. That is something that we are working on. It will be available for the next academic year. I hope it answers your question.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Thank you, Swami, for that question, and thank you, Ram. Swami, I think the next probably 10-15 minutes are yours in terms of making audience to understand the tool that you are building at SmartTail Deepgrade. So over to you, Swami.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. So thank you again, Harish. Awesome demo from Ram as you show. So really happy. So very quick recap of what SmartTail is. SmartTail is a deep tech company, and couple of things that we want to talk about our product is that we have been NVIDIA cloud validated. We use a lot of NVIDIA learning models in our product, and also we are now part of the Google AI First Accelerator program. Recently, we have also been picked by Forbes as one of the select 200 companies with good potential for business. And we have won a lot of awards and accolades over the last 5 years, mainly because we are in the deep tech side of the education sector. UNESCO had pulled us out and then spoken about us a little bit in terms of the case study that we are actually doing. So the product that we have built is called as Deepgrade. In a single line, what it does is, using artificial intelligence, we grade the descriptive handwritten answers of students. So the formative exams, the unit tests, the summative exams that happens in the school today could be graded using Deepgrade via artificial intelligence, and then it will give results and outcome back to the teachers and to the the school leaders as such. Now, the main foremost question would be, okay, how does AI actually will grade? Because we're not just looking at keywords, we're looking at the intent and the meaning and the context of what the kids have actually write, and then compare to that of an answer key, and then say, okay, this intent or this meaning is matching, and then we will actually grade it based on it, and then give out learning analytics and remedial plan for the school assets. So that's what we actually do. So I'm quickly going to play a video in terms of, I'll talk through the video. So this is what you're seeing on the screen is a multi-page scanner. This scans both the sides of the answer paper. Now, if you have a bunch of 30 students, each of them write 3 sheets, 90 sheets could be scanned in under 1.5 minutes. So around 2 minutes, it will take you to scan these answer papers. This gets uploaded into Deepgrade, and the moment it gets uploaded into Deepgrade, we identify based on whatever they have actually handed in as their roll number in each of the papers. This is a normal answer paper that you use in your school today. Nothing different from it, and the normal way in which the kids actually write the answer paper. Now we understand what is the kid's roll number and segment saying, okay, this belongs to student A, this belongs to student B, so on and so forth. The next step in the process is we identify, okay, this is question number 1, this is question number 2, question number 3, question number 4, all of that dissected and then pull it out. Here, the students can write in their own order. They will write in their own order, whatever they like, and then the answers will flow from one page to another page. We know students writing half of the answer in the second page and half of the answer in the 6th page, all of that. All of these scenarios is something which we clearly understand. So after this is we go for handwritten text extraction. So we are experts in young adult handwriting extraction. So we have worked with over 1 million handwritings. And then with about 98% accuracy, we pull out the handwritten text of the children and convert them into the digital text. So there was one question about children with dyslexia. So we are trying to solve that problem as well, even if there is a dyslexia child who's actually writing where his words or his letters could be a little bit reversed. Maybe in the next couple of quarters, we will have a very specific solution where that handwriting is also something which we'll be able to understand as such. Now, once the handwriting is extracted, it is converted into a digital handwriting as such. This is how the answer key is configured. For instance, the answer keys are phrases and meaningful sentences. So a child cannot just write the keywords or write spray and pray, hoping, okay, I have written all the keywords, hopefully I'll give the mark. As long as the meaning and the intent and the context is intact only, Deepgrade will actually grade it and then award mark. Otherwise, it will actually say, no, this is not actually matching with the answer keys that has been actually provided. Now, from an execution standpoint, we also give data in terms of spelling errors, grammatical errors, what are the different kind of errors that is actually there. All of that is something which we actually give back to the teacher as well. So now I'll pause this video and then I'll actually jump into the direct application itself to show you how it actually looks. So let me pull one of the worksheets that we have actually graded. Now we give a lot of analytics. We are kind of telling, okay, this is the answer paper that we have actually graded. And for this answer paper, now we have most attended questions, moderately attended questions, and least attended. And also, what is the average score? So that is the first level data that is actually given. Each question that the child actually takes, so the school can give the questions or we can give the questions, all of that is acceptable. For each of the questions, we also classify the question as per the Bloom's taxonomy and also different chapter wise. So you will know how your whole class is performing on a Bloom's taxonomy level as well. Plus, we also have chapter-wise data in terms of how the children are performing on a chapter-wise level as well for that particular test. And also, we map each and every question to the ELOs, the expected learning outcomes. And that data is also made available for the teacher to look at. So all of these analytics, as I was saying, we are more of an analytics company. This analytics actually helps the teacher in terms of where should I go and actually work in my remedial, or where should I go and work in my revision classes with my children. Now, from a result standpoint, say, let me pick one particular student. And then this is the actual answer paper of the kid. This is the full answer paper of the kid that he has actually written. And this is what I meant by dissecting, right? So we now have each and every question, which is actually dissected, and this is extracted, and then the mark is actually given. For instance, I'll take this one mathematical question. So here, the mathematical steps, the problems, the answers to the steps is actually written down in terms of steps. And then for each of steps, the marks is actually given. Now, what you see here is there is a calculation error. What the kid has actually done is he has done a 12 by 3. He has to put a 4. Instead of a 4, he has actually put a 3. And because of which his final answer is kind of wrong. So here Deepgrade kind of gives that picture to the kid and to the teacher saying, what is the mistake that has been done? So when the kid comes back to the answer paper, he not only knows, oh, I just got 1 out of 2. He also knows what is the reason that he has not got that 1 out of 2. So that is also something which is actually made available for the teachers and as well as for the students to look at. Now, any descriptive question, even if the kid is going to write in his own words, that is also extracted and that is also graded and then given as a output or a result back to the students or the teachers. Now, I have one more report that I want to actually show it off. So this is called as a magic report. We call it as magic report because we just named it as a. Each and every single dot that you're actually seeing on this screen in this particular graph is an individual student. And this shows like a full level distribution of where the kids are with respect to all the tests that they've actually taken. Or we can even time limit saying, okay, show me for the last 3 months or show me for the last 6 months. For instance, if I click on this, I will also be able to see, say, this is for math. And if I click on this, I'll also be able to see who are my kids who have not really done well or who fall between 40 and 60 in mathematics as such. And if I click on an individual kid here, I will also be able to see how is that kid performing not only in mathematics, but also in the other subjects. Now, similarly, if I go into mathematics, you will also be able to see not only for mathematics as a subject, but also in the different chapters of mathematics, how the kids have actually performed. So now what you're seeing is for different chapters, we are seeing that every chapter is okay, apart from chapter number 6, which is triangles and its properties and practical geometry. These are 2 subjects where we are seeing a cluster of kids who are actually in this particular zone. So what this means today is that for the teacher, when she has a 2 revision classes, she exactly knows which chapters or which question types or what kind of level that she should actually talk to the children and who are my children. So if I want to say, okay, I want to go and focus on chapter number 10 for my kids, these are 49 children who are coming from 3 different sections on whom she can actually go and focus on. Instead of doing the revision for the whole class, it can be a more pinpointed precision strike instead of a spray and pray method. So now here I can also click on an individual student and see, okay, this is a kid who has actually got pretty good, decent marks in all the other chapters, apart from chapter 6 and chapter 10, which means probably the whole class as well needs a little bit of more attention in this particular chapter. So that is where the whole crux of remedial buckets and remedy comes into picture. And this is done via artificial intelligence. Now, what we do is that we also have a question library, which is pretty elaborate, especially we have done it for CBSE with over 250,000 questions, which is already pre-made. As a service, Deepgrade also is an academic team that also provides question papers for your formative, summative, or it also takes question papers from your school and configures within Deepgrade. And from the time you scan the answer papers in your school and upload it, in 2 days' time, you have the corrected answer papers back with you with all these analytics. So marks is one byproduct of this whole activity. But what we offer back to the schools is mainly the analytics and mainly the say the remedial plan that they can actually act upon. So this is in a very nutshell. I did a very short demo. Normally I take like 45 minutes to show different examples, but this is at a very high level. This is what Deepgrade does. Thanks, Harish.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks a lot, Swami. I know it is very challenging because I know whatever you've built it's really complex, but you have made it in a very simple way. But before leading to the questions of audience, I just have like one thought when I see it. It looks like seeing a science fiction movie because a lot of things like scanning papers and probably something that we would not have thought few years back, but you are in the tech industry, you know, things are happening. But teachers have always have that emotional connect with the answer papers, right? I need to like correct myself. I need to put that tick mark, put that red ink on the paper. And that's been how we have been trained over the years. When this comes in and this feel whether AI is taking up certain of my very emotional task. What is something, and probably teachers would have asked you this before, but
Yeah.
I'm representing teachers, school leaders are there, and even I'm an educator myself, want to ask this question before
Thank you.
other people ask. Yeah.
Thank you. That's one of the most toughest questions, Harish. Thanks for asking it first.
Yeah.
Right. So so I will answer this in two facets. Right. One is when we created this product, and then when we went through. Teachers have been correcting the answer papers for 100 years right now, from the time the schools have actually begun. Only humans have been correcting. And then now we are saying, okay, we are the only company, we're going and saying, oh, we will have AI correct your answer papers. And the first question is like, who are you guys? Do you even know what it means to correct an answer paper, right? So that's the first question that we actually get. And what you told is absolutely true, because I have dealt with few teachers, very senior teachers, who have actually like, okay, I communicate through my through the answer paper to my students. It is excellent when we take a median scale. It is excellent for excellent teachers or superb teachers who know everything. This tool might be an overkill. They might not even need this tool as such. So that's what I would say. But fortunately or unfortunately, there is a median curve, right? The number of teachers who are actually at that level is still a very, very low number, which is less than 2% overall when we take the count of number of teachers that is actually available. But what we are doing is, for even them, we still need to reduce the amount of burden, because as I was mentioning, 40% of their effort goes into grading. And for example, an MCQ test, or for example, a simple 2-mark objective test, which a simple 2-mark test, that unit test that they're actually doing in the class. The teachers need not spend their time. They can still do their summatives. They can still do some of their the key exams that is actually there, or some of their key questions. The teachers need not spend their time on this, which is we save time. Second is, for a teacher to put down the kind of analytics that we have actually shown in the last 5 minutes, is it going to be manually impossible for them to do for every class that they are actually capable for? Now, the third thing is, if I have such an excellent teacher who's actually there with me, I would want the teacher to spend more time interacting with my students and understanding what the students are feeling and teaching them more, rather than them putting their emotions on a piece of paper, which AI can actually help. At the end of the day, Deepgrade is a slave for the teachers. It is not a alternate, or it's not a replacement for the teacher. This tool is created to give input back to the teachers so that they can actually go and work with the children better. And we have, see, this whole application has been built with inputs from the teachers and the principals and the school stakeholders. So what we understand this very, very clearly, that it will take a little bit of time for them to even adapt to it. As Ram was mentioning, that it takes a couple of classes. This also takes a couple of tests for the teachers to understand, oh, does it really grade well? Does it actually work with the accuracy of what my teachers will actually grade? Does it actually understand different handwritings? So even if I show a presentation, and even if I already work with 50,000 children and around 60 schools, everybody wants to see how this works for their children and in their class. That's where we go and do a pilot, and we show to these teachers saying, see, this is how it grades. And then slowly but surely they understand this. And the future is this. There was a time when we used to take our DSLR cameras and then roam around and then go to the printing booths and print the pictures, store the album. All of that is there. Now everybody who has a phone is now a cameraman or a audio media guy. So I'm not doing an apple-to-apple comparison with respect to grading and that, but the future is definitely moving towards it. We are now grading MBBS answer papers, so it is not just schedule. We are looking at higher ed as well, MBBS, law. So these are places where you cannot be very creative. So we have already started our pilots in those zones as well. So yes, it's a little bit of a bitter pill to swallow, but my take would be like, yeah, you be the pioneer in taking and understanding how this works and adjusting it according to the needs, rather than saying, oh, no, it will not work. I hope I answered it to some extent.
Yes, perfectly, Swami. I'm also like, because it also gives more time back to the teacher in doing what they needed the most, right? We need teachers on certain aspects to connect with students, to have discussion on the conceptual understanding. So I think this sort of gives them the time that really we need teachers. Nobody can replace in that moment. So
Absolutely.
Thanks for bringing. I'm also like pulling in Ram onto the main stage again. So, I mean, for all the school leaders who have been patiently listening to a couple of the solutions, so there are different layers to what they have presented. I know it sounds maybe the topic of the webinar is future of assessments, but whatever they're doing are currently being implemented in schools, and a lot of interesting responses they have been getting. So this is practical now, and a lot more could be possible in the upcoming days. They're also working on tweaking their products. As Swami said, they're also working for a dyslexic student. For me, it looks really inclusive, right? I mean, for the child, instead of blaming the child, can the tool change according to the child's needs? And that's when the technology gets the most appreciation, right? Whenever it could become an enabler for someone be the best version of themselves, and that's the moment that I feel, yes, we need to adapt this and then move forward. There could be many cons to the side, but this positives become the dominant nature of it.